Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a first look at the brand new Shadow Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Shadow Talonflame. The non-Shadow Talonflame has already been a very strong Pokemon for many seasons, so I'm incredibly excited to see what the Shadow can do. So today, I'm going to be testing it out in the Open Great League. If you want to get Shadow Talonflame from yourself, Shadow Fletchling can be encountered by defeating Flying-type Grunts. Additionally, with the World Championships occurring later this week, there's now a cool background in-game during battles. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's go Shadow Talonflame. Hopping into the first match, picking up a negative lead Credilli into Shadow Dusknoir. Honestly, Shadow Dusknoir is a very scary Pokemon as I do not have a Ghost Resist on any of my 3 Mons. I'm able to land the Rock Tomb, farm it up with Credilli's switch into the Blastoise, and I'm able to catch a potential Dynamic Punch. It is the Dynamic Punch from the Dusknoir. Dusknoir is going to bank quite a bit of energy for later, and out comes Tinkaton. This is great for me, because obviously I have Shadow Talonflame, which would love nothing more than to burn down a Tinkaton. Tinkaton will deny my energy with a well-timed play rough, but now it's time for Shadow Talonflame to shine. Talonflame hits the field, these incinerates, deleting Tinkaton. Tinkaton would not make the play rough, they're forced to settle for a Bulldoze. Bulldoze not going to do a lot of damage, and fortunately I do not get debuffed. In comes Dusknoir, the Incinerate goes through. Did they survive this Incinerate? The Shadow Punch is shielded. They did not. It's Golisopod in the back, and this game is just a win. I could finish out the game with Talonflame, but I think the faster way is going to be to switch into Credilli after I force both shields with the Fly. So now that they're shieldless, I can just send in the Credilli, fire off this Rock Tomb, and this is just going to be catastrophic damage onto Golisopod. Golisopod is going to get farmed down, and that's going to be a Game 1 win. Great lead in the next match, Credilli into Lapras, safe switch into Shadow Primeape, and I respond with Shadow Talonflame. Here's where my lack of bulk hurts me, as if they close combat, I probably get KO'd. It's just a Rage Fist, but even just a Rage Fist does so much damage. That's the trade-off with the Talonflame being Shadow. You're obviously going to have substantially more damage, but also substantially less bulk. I farm up to a Brave Bird plus a Fly. I'm full sending the Brave Bird connects, and Lapras, one of the bulkiest Great League Pokemon, almost gets one shot. Now I can fire off the Fly, force the shield. It's going to be a simultaneous switch. I send in Credilli, and they bring out Golisopod. I just did not want to concede the farm down with the Talonflame. Talonflame is not going to be useful for much in the endgame, but this way, at the very least, I'm not behind on energy. Credilli is going to be met with the debuffed X-Scissor. That's going to set up a farm down for the Golisopod, but now I can very comfortably close out the game with Blastoise. Blastoise will hit the field. This is a misplay by me. They're debuffed, so I should always not shield here. They make a catch, but it's not going to matter as long as I go for an undercharge. This undercharge is going to get me one extra rollout, putting me just that little bit closer to the game-winning Hydro Cannon. They will get to fire off the second X-Scissor. If they get to a third, it's game over for me, but they do not. The undercharge on the Blastoise proves to be crucial as Hydro Cannon KOs Golisopod, and we take the win. We move to the next match, and we pick up, honestly, an uncomfortable lead, Shadow Marowak against my Credilli. Marowak will throw instantly, so that way they can guarantee Bone Club damage before a potential Rock Tomb. Because they threw right away, I'm just going to full send the Grass Knot here. Grass Knot into the Marowak, picks up the KO as my opponent tried to call the bait. That is very good news for me, and now they're going to bring out their own Credilli. This is very bad for me. I'm very weak to Credilli in the back, so I will fire off the Rock Tomb, send in Blastoise, but unfortunately it's going to be a simultaneous switch, Blastoise into Furret. Furret will get to connect with a super effective Trailblaze. I'm going to be no-shielding because I know that my Blastoise can survive, and I should be able to make double Hydro. I would love to get a Hydro into a Skull Bash, but my opponent will actually end up no-shielding the first move, meaning that I'm just going to go straight Hydro from here on out. Hydro Cannon is going to be shielded. Furret does get a big farm down, and that is really unfortunate for me. Now I get to bring in the Talonflame, but these are boosted Swifts from the Furret. I really don't want to have to take this damage. Swift is going to be shielded, but they're already at another one. This will do less than a Rock Tomb from Credilli. I'm forced to let it go. That's big damage, and now my opponent is going to bring in their own Credilli. I will get to grab the final shield with the Fly, and now it's time for my own Credilli to try and take home this win. My Credilli is going to be shielding up the Rock Tomb and just looking to try and get to the Grass Knot. Grass Knot will be reached. This does more damage than the Rock Tomb, so it's the correct move to go for here. Grass Knot lands, getting them deep into the red, but they survive and make a last-second move. The question is, can my Shadow Talonflame survive all these fast moves? In comes the Talonflame, I get the farm down, in comes Furret, the sucker punches snipe me down, and unfortunately, I lose the match. Great lead in the next match, Credilli into Mandibuzz. A lot of Mandibuzz like to just no-shield the Rock Tomb, bank the energy, and switch, so I'm actually not going to throw the Rock Tomb right away. Instead, I want to make Mandibuzz's life as uncomfortable as I possibly can. So I'm going to tank the foul play and farm up close to 100 energy. Rock Tomb is going to be no-shielded. They try and go for an aggressive catch of the Rock Tomb onto Unova Stunfisk by turn waiting, but by not falling for that, I've now put them in a very difficult situation. I'm not even in a range where Mud Bomb will knock me out, so I can very comfortably no-shield and just look to knock them out with the Grass Knot. Are they going to invest resources into the Stunfisk? No, they're just fully sacrificing it. I'm expecting them to bring back in the Mandibuzz and look to KO the Credilli. They're clearly very weak to it, so I may as well save what little Credilli I have left and catch and sneak onto the Blastoise. Blastoise now going to be up energy, and that is so helpful when Drapion hits the field. Normally Drapion would outpace, but now it's Blastoise that has the advantage. And I am running the non-Shadow Blastoise, which means I have extra bulk, and I don't think this Crunch is knocking out. The Crunch lands, Blastoise survives, I click the Hydro Cannon, but my energy is denied by an Aqua Tail on the CMP tie. And now it's time. In comes Shadow Talonflame. Shadow Talonflame, these Incinerates are absolutely deleting this poor Drapion. Aqua Tail will be shielded. They defer the Incinerate onto the Mandibuzz, but I'm able to reach the back-to-back flies, and that will seal my opponent's fate. As now, fly number 2 is going to pick up the knockout here. Down goes Mandibuzz. All that's left is the very low health Drapion. Drapion survives on fractional HP, but Shadow Talonflame has done its job. Now I can just bring in the Credilli, throw 2 acids, get the farm down, and take the win. Nightmare lead in the next match, Credilli into Shadow Scizor. I save switch into Blastoise. Blastoise save switch is usually a very difficult thing for Scizor teams to handle. Here my opponent will fire off the Night Slash just to look to get some chip, and now they're going to send out Dedenne. This is very good to bait out, because obviously my Talonflame would get destroyed, and I'm up so much energy on the Blastoise that I can actually force a shield or switch advantage from my opponent. They will commit the shield, but look at this. They can't even get the farm down. Blastoise putting in so much work as a save switch, and now this sets up my Credilli to get massive farm from the Dedenne. Dedenne will get to a play rough, but that's not really a problem. Credilli tanks that very comfortably. I get so much farm here, all these acids picking up the KO, and back in comes the Scizor. They either lose the Scizor here, or they're going to lose their final shield. They elect to let Scizor go. In the back is Diggersby, and now I can send out Shadow Talonflame. Shadow Talonflame, this brave bird is going to be devastating. Diggersby is incredibly bulky. I assume Diggersby can survive here, but probably not by much. I'm just going to full send the Brave Bird. Brave Bird connects. Diggersby hangs on fractional HP, but the Incinerate after KOs and takes the win. Tricky lead in the next match, Credilli into Dusclops. Dusclops will throw instantly just to avoid me applying a debuff onto their Ice Punch, so they get to land a move at full power. If they want to land their next Ice Punch, they're going to have to throw 1 and the move for good timing, and I can catch a debuffed Ice Punch onto my Blastoise and sneak. But look at this, my opponent predicted that. They went for a Shadow Punch bait, and now we have Blastoise versus Blastoise. Considering I have a Talonflame in the back, this is basically the best Pokemon that I could see here. Talonflame can't do anything into Blastoise. Blastoise's pacing is just too good for Talonflame to handle. Here, I will respect the Skull Bash just to be hit with a Hydro Cannon bait. And now I return fire with a Hydro Cannon of my own. Because they didn't Skull Bash, they don't have the boosted defense to hang on there. My opponent brings back in the Dusclops, and honestly, I'm very happy to see it here. Shadow Punch is not threatening whatsoever. They're going to be forced to throw a second Shadow Punch if they want to get rid of the Blastoise, and I'm pretty sure they're in Hydro range. And they think so as well. They'll put up the shield. Good counting by my opponent, not letting me get another Hydro, and the Shadow Punch will be the end of Blastoise. But now it's time. In comes Shadow Talonflame, and they will get to fire off a parting gift of a Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch lands. In the back is Diggersby, and this game should just be a win. Diggersby, I would get knocked out by the Scorching Sands here, so I will have to commit the shield. It is going to be the Fire Punch, and now I farm up to a Brave Bird plus a Fly. This is a 50-50. I'm full sending the Brave Bird. It connects. Opponent survives on 1 HP, but the Fire Punch will be caught onto Credilli. Credilli is going to get the farm down. In comes Dusclops. Dusclops will instantly be debuffed by the Rock Tomb. Dusclops will have an opportunity to get a lot of farm here. Each Hex generates so much energy. Dusclops hangs on with fractional HP remaining. I do have the move loaded on the Talonflame though, which means that will secure the win. If they were one off and I didn't have the move, they could throw the Hex and the move and win the game, but were able to get the win. We see a tricky lead in the next match, leading Credilli into Shadow Drapion. Obviously, Drapion would be a pretty big problem for Shadow Talonflame, so I am going to stay in on the lead and play this out. I shield up the first because I know that Credilli can make life very uncomfortable for Drapion. Drapion is going to no shield. I honestly would have preferred them to play out the ones because the ones is very good for Credilli, but they're smartly not going to play to a shielding scenario that they do not win. My goal was to catch a debuffed Crunch onto Blastoise, but they're just going to settle for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail will get me very low. I debate farming down with Acid, but realize I cannot do so, and I'm forced to fire off the Rock Tomb. In hindsight, maybe I should have tried to catch the Aqua Tail there onto the Blastoise, but it looks like even if I did, I would have still lost the game because there's a Jellicent in the back, and at this point, with a Blastoise and Talonflame backline, I'm just getting fully swept by this Jellicent. Unfortunately, not every game is winnable, and this is definitely one of them, where there's just nowhere for Talonflame to go. There's not even a way that I can get through the Jellicent and potentially even beat, let's say, like a Scizor or something in the back with Talonflame, because Jellicent will be able to fully sweep here. It's up energy, and I just can't do any damage to it. In the back is Lapras. Blastoise will hang on to make a last-second Skull Bash, barely surviving those Psy Waves. Unfortunately, that just doesn't even matter because I have the Shadow Talonflame in the back. They stored so much energy on the Jellicent, so at this point, I'm just not going to waste anyone's time. I'm going to no-shield the Talonflame, get KO'd, and then just let my Credilli get Psy-Wave down. We move to the next game, looking for a bit of redemption, and that's not the lead we're looking for. Leading into a Shadow Fortress, save switch Blastoise, out comes Shadow Giratina, and we're off to a very rough start. Now, I do not have Ice Beam on my Blastoise, but my opponent obviously has no way of knowing that, so I have to hope that they respect the Ice Beam. Hydro Cannon does get shielded, my opponent respects the Ice Beam, and that's great news for me. Giratina will be able to knock me out with the Dragon Claw, but now I can just bring in Credilli and go for some pretty significant farm. Acid never doing a lot of damage here, it is resisted, but the good news is my Rock Tomb will inflict some serious damage. It's not going to knock out by any means, but it will be getting the Giratina into a range where I can manage it with the Talonflame as needed. Here, I'm just going to overfarm. Opponent tries for a catch onto Fortress, and now it's time for Shadow Talonflame. Looks like 3 Incinerates will be all that's needed to fully farm down the Fortress. They do get a parting gift of a Rock Tomb. In comes the Giratina. Giratina immediately put under pressure from the fly. They're going to no-shield. In the back is Regidrago. And can I survive the Dragon Breaths to get to the double fly? It's going to be close. Shadow Talonflame is definitely getting breakpointed here compared to the regular opponent. No shields. I'm pretty sure even debuffed a Brave Bird would have KO'd there. I fire off fly number 2. That's going to get the shield. And there is the combo play right on cue. Credilli knocks out Regidrago. All that energy down the drain. And we get the win. Hopping into the final match, Credilli into another Regidrago. Regidrago decides to CMP tie, so they're going to land a Breaking Swipe before I get a debuff, but they've only thrown 14. It's 15 to a Dragon Energy, so as the Credilli player, I never have to shield there. Rock Tomb will inflict quite a lot of damage and of course apply its standard debuff. Here, I'm going to go for a catch and sneak onto the Blastoise, preserving that energy for later. Dragon Energy is going to land. They're going to bring out Fortress, and Fortress will be able to make a move before I get my second Hydro Cannon. But honestly, that would be preferable to them farming down, but they decide to farm down. Oh, this is actually not good. If they threw their energy, I could have just farmed down with the Talonflame and got a bunch of energy for free. But now they have a move stored. I'm going to bring in the Credilli here, and my opponent does not risk the CMP tie. It's a close CMP tie, but it does favor the Fortress. Fortress looks content to farm down everything, and that forces my hand. I switch it to the Talonflame. I have to shield the Rock Tomb. The Incinerate should KO anyway. They actually go for a Sand Tomb, so they're just going to try and fully fast move me down. These Psywaves are adding up, but this Brave Bird is going to be game over. Brave Bird connects, one hit KO. In comes Regidrago. Regidrago will not get the farm down either. And my goodness, Shadow Talonflame is a ruthless closer, and we're able to secure the win. It looks like I was mistaken. That was not the final game. This will be the final game, but it's the same lead as before, leading into the Regidrago. This opponent will not CMP tie. Instead, they want to bluff a potential Dragon Energy, but whatever they throw is going to be debuffed, and I'm very okay no shielding that. So Breaking Swipe is going to connect. They do get the debuff. They can't get a Dragon Energy before I get the move, so this is another Breaking Swipe, and then I can just look to save switch into the Blastoise. In comes Blastoise. Opponent responds with a Shadow Superior. Blastoise farming up. Opponent will fire off their Frenzy, but this sets up the Shadow Talonflame so nicely. In comes the Talonflame. I will shield up the Aerial Ace because I am a Shadow Talonflame and they are a Shadow Superior. So I think it will actually do some real damage. So I shield up, get the farm down, and now I just have 80 energy on Talonflame, and that's trouble for basically anything in the game that isn't a rock type. Back in comes the Regidrago, so I will farm up to 100 energy and start to pressure them with Flies. Fly is going to be no-shielded in the back. It's their own Shadow Talonflame, and this game's a win. I have a move on Credilli, and I'm too far ahead on Talonflame. They no-shield the Fly, and that damage is criminal. And my Talonflame takes the win, as unfortunately my opponent gets KO'd with both their shields remaining. All in all, I did have quite a bit of fun getting to use Shadow Talonflame. I don't necessarily think this is the strongest comp to run with Shadow Talonflame, but to me, Shadow Talonflame definitely felt like a pretty strong side grade to the regular Talonflame. Obviously, there's quite a bit of trade-off in terms of you have way more closing power with the Shadow Talonflame, able to pick up KOs that you never could with the regular, but that does come at a cost. You take a lot more damage. Neutral matchups suddenly feel a lot less comfortable if multiple shields are in play, just due to the fact that you're taking so much more damage. Even against something like Furret, we saw a +1 Swift inflict some serious damage onto Talonflame. So I definitely think that Shadow Talonflame, it's situational. I can definitely see some cases where the Shadow will be better, and some cases where the regular will be preferred. In the current meta, I think there are better options than Talonflame. I think there are just better flyers overall. I think Talonflame stocks are a little bit down right now, but I think this is a Shadow that you should prioritize trying to get a good IV of. We obviously know the best Shadow of the rotation is Shadow Giratina Altered. But after Shadow Giratina, I would say the pretty clear number 2 is going to be the Shadow Talonflame. Shadow Talonflame I would absolutely grab because we've seen Talonflame be a top meta Pokemon for many seasons, and I could definitely see the Shadow ascending to that status potentially in future metas down the road. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.